My name's Hannah, and I would like to welcome you to the Rose Church YouTube channel. If you would like to see more content like this, please like and subscribe below. We are so excited to announce that Connect Group signups are live. If you are looking to get plugged in at Rose Church, this is a perfect opportunity. We have groups meeting all across the Portland metro area. The link is in the description below. Lastly, here at Rose Church, we believe in generosity. We as a community are able to give back so much when you give to us. You can find the link in the description below. Now, let's sit back, relax, and watch this message from Pastor Manny Arango.
A table surrounded by righteous people laughing with food and drink is God's goodness made tangible. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, but you've ever been around a table of Christians and stories are going and laughter is going and there's food and drink and people are talking and people are playing games and you feel like as if that's what you were made for because you were. Yeah. Connect groups open today. Today is day one of season one of Connect season. So all Connect groups are open. I think we have 22 Connect groups. We have phenomenal leaders this season. There is a group for you. Meeting all over the city, Vancouver, downtown, west side, east side, out in the burbs. There is something for you, okay? There's so many different groups doing different stuff. I am begging you, find community. Get plugged in. It is one thing to sit in a service and like, okay, I went to church, kind of. You attended a service. We are not a service and a time and a location. We are a family that does life together, that meets together, and I'm going to bug you as much as I can. Get in a Connect group, okay? Find one that works for you. There's like 20-something of them. They open today. So you can go online to the Church Center app. If you want help signing up, go to Next Steps. They'll help you sign up today. You can sign up for a few of them if you need to find one that works for you. I know life and work, everything changes and stuff flips and schedules and all that stuff. So find one that works for you. But they open today. Today is day one of season one of Connect groups. All of them are open. Sign up today. You gonna sign up? Great, 9 of you. The rest of you, sign up for a group. It's gonna be the best thing you ever do. Well, today we are starting a new series, if you will. We did this last January, and I loved it so much personally that I wanted to do it again this January. I'm taking the whole month of January off of preaching. Not off of work, calm down, I'm not taking a month off, okay? There's a bunch of other stuff I get to do throughout this month, like our staff and team leadership and get ready for our future series and essentials. A bunch of stuff I get to spend different time on during the month of January. And so we did it last year. It's called Power in the Pause. Now we're gonna take this month to pause, to think, consider, get ready for our year. We're gonna start the year with prayer, worship, consideration, pausing, reflecting, refocusing, getting ready on God. What we did it last year, we're gonna do it again this January, is we have guests in. Now, you might think they're a guest, they're not a guest to us. They're my family, they're my brothers and sisters that will be with us throughout this month. And today is the first Sunday, and I wanted to start this month off with one of the best communicators I know personally. I think this is his 5th time here at the church. And so he's no longer a guest. He's kind of like uncle at this point. And so we don't have a guest today. We have a family member at dinner with us this morning. And it's going to be a phenomenal day. You're going to love him. I want to challenge you, lean in. Get ready to take notes, write down. There's a Bible in front of you. If you don't have one, there's a Bible right in front of you. If you don't have a Bible, take that one. It's yours. But get ready this morning as we start this month. Next Sunday, the queen herself, Julia, is speaking next Sunday. And so be at church next Sunday. It's gonna be a phenomenal month. But today, we're starting out with one of my close friends, one of my best friends. He's a phenomenal communicator. He'll tell you more about his wife and his new baby boy. They're supposed to be here, but they stayed back in North Carolina. He is a phenomenal communicator. Right now, he lives in North Carolina. He just moved to Texas, to the great state of Texas. And but today, it is his 5th time. We have Uncle Manny back at church today. Would you put your hands together and welcome Uncle Manny as he speaks this morning?
Hallelujah. Come on, it's nice that you're clapping for me, but anybody grateful for the Lord in the room? Come on, that his presence is here. At the beginning of every year, I feel like I'm looking back over my shoulder at like what happened last year. Anybody else? Like, just kind of like looking back over what happened. It's funny, I'm short, as you probably saw when me and Pastor Andrew hugged. I'm on my tippy toes, he's bending down. I've always been short. And so I was a small kid, I've always been kind of the smallest kid in my class. And it's this random memory that I have of probably like being like 5 or 6 years old. And I was standing in front of a door that's supposed to automatically open when you stand in front of it. Me and Julia both have this problem, right? I'm the same height as your wife, Andrew. So I'm standing in front of this door, and this door just doesn't open. I'm probably like 5 or 6 years old, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, the door opens. And man, I'm feeling good about myself. I'm like, yeah, all right. I'm not that small, right? And then I look back over my shoulder, and actually it was my dad that stood behind me. And the sensor on the door didn't pick me up, but it was able to pick up my father. And you want to know what I want for like all of us today? Like, as you look back over the last year, your degree didn't open doors for you. Like, your connections didn't open doors for you. Like, it's not just your skills or your gifts. There are people who are gifted and skilled who are still stuck in depression and anxiety. But come on, at some point you've got to realize that the Lord stood behind you, that the Lord added his weight to your words, that God began to do things that nobody else could do. And God stood behind you, and doors began to open. Come on, doors in your career, doors in your mental health, doors in your finances, doors open. Not because of who you are, but because of the one who stands behind you. So when we sing, not for a minute, not for a second, come on, did God ever leave me or forsake me or abandon me? There are certain seasons where you begin to realize, man, when I look back and realize that God was the one who was there, it begins to quiet all that pride, right? And all that arrogance, and make me go, even on my best day, I don't have what it takes to actually accomplish God's call on my life. But when I partner with him, there's something about God and his presence and his goodness that makes me the best version of me that I could ever be. And so this is not humanism. This is like the gospel. That it's not self-help. This is the gospel. That we're not just trying to make you better. We're trying to like get heaven into you, get glory on your life, get God's favor on your life. So, man, anybody excited for the word today? I'm super excited. All right, come on. I'm a black man with a clock looking at me. So for anybody who I haven't been here in a while, my name is Manny Arango. I am black, okay? All day, every day, all right? I'm like the black uncle, So I come around for holidays, I'm exciting. So last year, I preached on the Sunday before Martin Luther King Day. And I was like, yo, Andrew, come on, bro. This is very stereotypical. So we moved me up like a week. I feel good. Yeah, we moved me up 2 Sundays. So, hey, I feel like I've been on a journey with you guys, like just as a church. Me and my wife, we feel like you guys are family. The very, 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 very first time that I ever preached at Rose Church, me and my wife were battling with infertility. We had been battling with infertility for years, like praying and believing that we would get pregnant. And I shared that, like I talked about that on that Sunday. Because I didn't want people to just believe with me at the mountaintop. I wanted you to like walk with me through the valley, because sometimes you can assume that just because someone's on stage or has a mic, that their spiritual life's just easy. And so when we begin to share struggles, it's like, no, like, boo-boo, we struggling too. And there's glory that God gets, not just at the end when everything is tied up with a ribbon, but no, God gets glory through every season, through the tough ones, the hard seasons, all that stuff. So I think the second time that I'd spoken here, me and my wife, we had miraculously gotten pregnant, but then had a miscarriage. And I remember sharing that. And then I think the next time I spoke, my wife was pregnant for the second time, with our son, and I remember sharing that. And right now, my son is 5 months old. And I think we have a picture of my son. That's my son. There we go. I don't know who needs to be encouraged today, but doctors told me and my wife that we would never have children. that it would never happen. Can I tell you what word you can take out of your vocabulary the moment you get into a relationship with God? The word never. Come on. God can do anything. He can do all things. I don't know if you need to be encouraged today, but you're looking at a miracle. That little boy is a miracle. It's a miracle. And God wants to do miracles in your life. The fact that you woke up today, come on, is a miracle. For some of us, the fact that we're in our right minds is a miracle. Come on, God's good, he's awesome. And I hope that you came to church today full of expectation for what God is gonna say, for what God is gonna do, and for how the Holy Spirit is gonna wreck and rearrange your life this year. We don't wanna come with low expectations. We wanna come with high expectations, okay? Our expectations, they do dictate our experiences. And trust me, me and my wife have walked through years of infertility, then a miscarriage, and then getting pregnant. And the whole time we were pregnant, almost like scared that we were gonna have a miscarriage. And oh man, I can tell you story after story after story. But God's faithful all along. And every time I look in that little boy's eyes, I realize God never left me, not for a moment, not for a second, that God's been faithful, and he wants to be faithful in your life. Come on, let's go to the scriptures. I got a word for you today. I'm gonna kick off our Power in the Pause series. I want you to go to the book of Genesis, okay? We're gonna go to Genesis chapter 29, then we're gonna go to Genesis chapter 49, and I'm gonna get through this whole sermon. It's gonna happen, okay? We got time on the clock. We're gonna get through this whole message, okay? Most times I feel like I got more sermon than I got time, but today we're gonna get through this, okay? We're gonna do this. I got a lot to share. I feel like the Holy Spirit's put a lot on my heart, so let's go. Let's go to Genesis chapter 29. I'm gonna open up my Bible. Anybody got a physical Bible with them? Come on. I got a physical Bible with me. Anybody got a digital Bible with them? Come on, physical Bibles, digital Bibles, I don't care what you got. I hope you got the word in some form, okay? Unless it's an Android device. In that case, we don't need that. We can put your Android device away, okay? Genesis chapter 29. Genesis chapter 29. If I say a word, if there's a word that I don't say, that means it's your turn to say the word that I don't say, because we're black. And we talk back to the preacher. All right, so Genesis chapter 29, we're going to start reading in verse 21, okay? I love this verse. Then Jacob said to Laban, give me my time is completed and I want to make love to her. Great verse. Just right out of the gate. Maybe not the thing you say to your father-in-law, but Jacob is like, look, man, cut the crap, all right? I've been working for 7 years for this woman named Rachel. My time is complete, like on the day. It's like year 6, day 364. Jacob is like, tomorrow's the day. Tomorrow is the day, okay? Yo, Laban, give me my wife. I want to make love to her. Verse 22. So Laban brought together all the people of the place and gave a feast. But when, come on, we got to get context for this because there's no electricity. Thomas Edison has not invented light bulbs. Like, you get married with a veil on, you know what I'm saying? Laban is like, let's wait till it's dark because I'm about to pull a little switcheroo, okay? When evening came, he took his daughter, Leah. Now, let me just, when the Bible says you're not cute, that's a whole nother level of not cute. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing for, like, me to not think someone's cute. But, like, Moses is writing inspired scripture, and the Holy Spirit is like, remember to tell them. Leah's kind of busted. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole nother level of, like, grimy. Like, you know? So much so, like, Leah is so not cute that her dad is like, no chance you're ever gonna get a man. So I've got a trick. Like, if you don't think that scripture can relate to your life, like, your dad ain't as bad as Laban. Laban is like, there's no way Leah's gonna ever find a man. But there's this dude who likes her sister, so we'll just like slip her in there 2 for 1, BOGO, you know what I'm saying? Buy one, get one. No, what does it say? What does it say? When evening came, he took his daughter and brought her to Jacob, and Jacob made love to her. And Laban gave his servant Zilpah to his daughter as her attendant. When morning came, there was Leah. Some of y'all, like, you had electricity and still got stuck with a Leah. It's like you was at the club. Come on, don't act like you had never been to a club. Strobe lights was hitting their face just right. You thought like you had a couple too many drinks. He was like, I think they're kind of cute. You woke up the next morning. It's like, there is Leah, right? Come on, don't play. Come on. When morning came, there was Leah. So Jacob said to Laban, what is this that you have done to me? I served you for, didn't I? Why have you deceived me? Laban replied, it is not our custom here to give the younger daughter in marriage before the older one. You should have told me that 7 years ago. What do you mean it's not our custom? Bruh, these are details. You could have told me this a week ago. And well, I think there's one more verse, yeah? Laban says this, finish this daughter's bride a week. Oh. There we go. Finish this daughter's bride a week, then we will give you the younger one also in return for another 7 years of work. And Jacob did so. He finished the week with Leah, and then Laban gave him his daughter Rachel to be his wife. Laban gave his servant Bilhah to his daughter Rachel as her attendant. Jacob made love to Rachel also, and his love, here we go, we've got to emphasize this. And his love for was than his love for Leah. And he worked for Laban another 7 years. I want us to now fast forward. We're gonna go 20 chapters into the future to some of Jacob's last words. This is a detail that maybe you've like glossed over, read over. We're gonna go to Genesis chapter 49, okay? So we just spent a couple of minutes in Genesis chapter 29, kind of setting up the story. And now we're gonna fast forward to the end of Jacob's life. Because Jacob has a different perspective about Leah and Rachel at the end of his life than he does when he's a young guy. I hope that every year you're getting wiser and wiser and wiser. And Jacob's wisdom and his perspective when it comes to understanding the complexity of Rachel and Leah changes over time. Let's go to Genesis chapter 49. It says this in verse 29. Then he gave them instructions. The instructions are to his 12 sons, to the men who are gonna establish the kingdom of Israel, the 12 tribal leaders of Israel. I'm about to be gathered to my people, which means he's about to die. Bury me with my, in the cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, the cave of the field of Machpelah, near Mamre in Canaan, which Abraham bought along with the field as a burial place from Ephron the Hittite. Verse 31. There, Abraham and his wife were buried. There, Isaac and his wife were buried. Get this. And there, I buried Leah. Jacob had a decision to make at the end of his life. Am I going to be buried with the woman that I loved but wasn't fruitful? Or am I going to spend eternity buried with the best woman that ever came into my life, who wasn't as attractive, but who bore me Simeon, Reuben, Levi, and Judah? Judah being the son who is going to what? Be the ancestor of Jesus. At some point, you are going to have to make up in your mind that sometimes the things that are the least attractive are the most fruitful. And the things that you love the most are just aesthetically pleasing, but are bearing you no fruit. And I came to preach to every millennial because we love aesthetics and we love how beautiful things are and how attractive things are. But boo-boo, is it fruitful? And by the end of Jacob's life, he realizes Rachel's cute, but she drama. Rachel cute, but she also stole the household gods from her father because she's an idol worshiper. Rachel's cute, but she kept blaming Jacob for why she wasn't pregnant. Rachel's cute, but she ain't got no prayer life. Bruh, guess what? She a baddie, but she probably bad for you too. Like you showing me Instagram pictures and I'm like, but is she gonna be here on Tuesday, January 11th? Like, can she pray? And here's the constant temptation. We find ourselves at the same fork in the road that Jacob found himself in. The beautiful thing gets all my attention. And I sow and never reap. I sow and never reap. I sow and never reap. I'm working and working and working, and there's never harvest. I hope that this year is the last year that you invest in friendships and invest in relationships and invest in businesses that never reap a harvest for you. Aren't you frustrated at sowing and sowing and sowing and sowing and never reaping anything? And at some point, the Holy Spirit is going to have to give you a love for what is fruitful. But that's not as attractive. Come on, confrontation is fruitful, it's just not attractive. Fasting is fruitful, it's just not attractive. Like that devotional plan that you were supposed to start and then like you did it for a couple, come on. That's fruitful, it's just not attractive. My question this morning is like, in every area of your life, does it look like Rachel or Leah? Do your friendships look like Rachel or Leah? Do your relationships look like Rachel or Leah? Dope on Instagram, but in real life, falls apart. I want you to take notes. Sermon title, come on. It was Leah all along. It was Leah all along. Let's pray. Holy Spirit, our prayer is simple today. We need you to speak. And we need you to give us eyes for Leah. Because maybe right now we're attracted to some things that are toxic and dysfunctional, and we keep coming back to them. And we need you to rearrange our loves. It's like Pastor Andrew said, like reorder our loves. And maybe we need to love Leah a little bit more than we've been loving Rachel. Help us, give us discernment for what that means in every specific person's life. I can only speak from generalities, but Holy Ghost, you can make every word that I say specific to every single person watching online or in this room. We don't need a guest speaker, we need you to speak. Do that today, God. In Jesus' name we pray. Come on, are we all said together? Amen. Come on, with power, we all said together? Amen. Come on, it was Leah all along. I hope, even in my introduction, I hope that maybe somebody was like just almost convicted, right? Like there's some areas of my life where looks great, but at the end of the day, Rachel's problematic. Like if you read the whole story, like Rachel's problematic, stealing her dad's household gods, lying. Like if you read the story, like Laban comes out like pissed off about his household gods, very angry. Like, where's my household gods? Rachel, who stole the household gods, is sitting on top of them, and homegirl's like, well, I'm on my period. This is like in the Bible. You don't know, you haven't read this part? Like in the whole Bible, okay? Rachel's like, well, I'm on my period, okay? And Laban can't search the camel where she's hiding the household gods because she lied about her period. Now you know you can't trust a woman who lied about her period, you know what I'm saying? Like this is just red flags all over the place, okay? Rachel's problematic. Now get this, we love preaching. It's so romantic. Jacob worked for her for 14 years. And the Bible's like, it was like a day for Jacob because he loved her so much. And this sounds so romantic, but can I be real with you? This is stupid. This is not romance. This ain't romance. If the tables were turned and there was a girl at church who'd been waiting for a dude to propose for 14 years, we'd be like, leave him, run for the hills. What are you doing? No, come on. If it's gonna take 14 years of your life away from you, maybe it's not romantic, maybe it's dumb. Rachel's very problematic, but the problem is that she's Jacob's favorite. I wonder if there's any areas in your life where you sow and you never reap. You sow and you never reap. Friendships, relationships, business partners, spiritual, like you keep sowing, you never reap, you sow, you never reap, you sow, you never reap, because guess what? That stops being cute after a while. And come on. It's church. We got to be real. Clearly, Leah wasn't that bad. They had mad kids. Okay, the first time, he was tricked, but he kept going back to her tent. Leah was doing something in that tent. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's clear. Simeon, Reuben, Levi, Judah, like, the first time homeboy got tricked, but every other time, of his own volition, Jacob is like, what's Leah doing? You know what I'm saying? You know what I bet? Come on, it's just me, like, adding some conjecture, like making the characters of the Bible human. I bet Leah was better to talk to. Think about this. Leah has the emotional maturity to get married to her sister's love interest and stick it out and not complain. No. This is, like, impressive. Like, if you actually read this entire story, you begin to realize that Rachel, although she's loved, is like super toxic and shallow and an idol worshiper and a liar and emotionally manipulative. She a baddie, but real bad for Jacob. And then you begin to see this other person, this unsung hero of the Bible, the mom of the man who's gonna go on to be the Lion of the tribe of Judah. Like, that's Jesus. Without Leah, there's no Jesus. And Leah is this unsung hero of the Bible. And I wanna help you because I think that a lot of us, there's a Leah somewhere in your life. Something that's not attractive, that's not aesthetically pleasing, that's not as sexy as Rachel, but is gonna bear you fruit year after year after year after year. It's funny, 2019, one of my goals for the year was to own property. My family has always been poor. So my dad is an immigrant from Cuba, served an 18-year prison sentence. When he got to America, he got addicted to crack cocaine. So we grew up in the hood, and my mom was pregnant by the time she was 13, was pregnant again at 15, so she was a teenage mom. I lived in government housing until, as long as I lived with my parents, until the time I was about 25, I lived in government housing. So somewhere around 2019, I remember being in like a New Year's Eve service and going, man, we gotta break this curse of poverty like off of my family. Like, I've been poor my whole life, and when I say the word curse, I mean a mindset. Like, it's a generational stronghold. I don't mean like voodoo, hex, curse. I just mean like the enemy had convinced my family that we would always be poor, and that the way that poor people think was normal, okay, and normative. So here I am, I'm believing God for children, and God challenges me and says, why would I give you children when you live in a 1,500 square foot apartment and you pay somebody else rent? You lived in an apartment with your parents your whole life. You've only ever known landlords. If I'm gonna give you children, I want you to be the Lord of your land. How about you stretch out your tent peg and change your mindset so that when I give you children, they'll never know renting. So I'm hanging out with my realtor, and I'm like, all right, bro, I gotta buy some property. My realtor's amazing, okay? He takes me to a property, and as we're driving there, I realize that the property, is in the hood. Now, I told you I grew up broke. So I have hood PTSD. I'm triggered by anything that feels a little too hood, you know what I'm saying? I grew up in government housing my whole life. Now I'm living in North Carolina, you know what I'm saying? I live in a neighborhood with a cul-de-sac, like I'm happy about that, you know what I'm saying? But it looks good, but I'm paying somebody else's mortgage. My realtor is trying to get me to buy this piece of property in what he's calling an appreciating neighborhood. And I'm like, it may be appreciating, but I don't appreciate this neighborhood, okay? He drives me, and I'm like, Jesse, I drove over 30 potholes. I saw 15 bums and 8 crackheads on my way to this piece of property. I got to the property, I didn't even get out of my car. I was so upset. I rolled down my window, I was like, Jesse! Now my realtor's white, so I had to remind him, you don't really know what the hood is. I know what the hood is, Jesse. This house is in the hood. He was like, this is not the hood, Manny. I was like, you don't know what you're talking about, Jesse. I'm intimately acquainted with the hood. Well, Manny, he's just trying to convince me that this house is dope. Well, 2 months go by. I still haven't found a house. And now I'm in a pickle because my lease is over on my apartment and I gotta move. And so Jesse found another house 2 minutes away from the original hood house. But Jesse's slick. He drove me in such a circuitous route that when we rolled up on the property, I appreciated it for the first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, Jesse, this is a dope house. He was like, yeah, man, we should put an offer on this house. I was like, now what part of the city are we in? And he did not answer directly. But Jesse said, there's a Starbucks down the street. Now, I know. They don't put Starbucks in the hood, you know what I'm saying? I'm like, not in North Kakalaki, they don't, you know? So I'm like, a Starbucks? Jesse's like, a Starbucks. I'm like, let's go to the Starbucks and write up an offer for the house. Without me knowing, Jesse moved me right into the hood. But guess what? I bought that house for $220,000 in 2019, and I sold that house 2 months ago for $320,000. I need you to get this. Because Rachel would have left me broke with no equity. I wanted a house that would impress people when they came to my neighborhood. I wanted a house that looked nice. I wanted something, why? Because my insecurities want to impress other people. Can we get down into this? Come on. Jacob having all these kids with Leah means this, that he likes her privately, but is ashamed of her publicly. Uh-oh. If you're a woman in the room and there's a dude who's cool with hooking up with you privately but doesn't claim you publicly, it means that he's too insecure to be proud of you, and he needs arm candy instead of a person who can actually add value to his life. That's a toxic man who doesn't just want you but needs you for validation. You should leave him alone. It means that he's fine using you to gratify his flesh, but is never gonna put a ring on it because you ain't cute enough? That's toxic. That's immaturity. You need to get out of that scenario. I'm preaching truth. I wanted a Rachel. My realtor cared about my equity and generational wealth. He cared that this would be fruitful for my long term. At some point, you are gonna have to get to the fork in the road where you see Rachel and you see Leah, and Leah begins to look very attractive to you because you begin to see the value of what Leah can be. You begin to see the potential of what this should be. And at the end of the day, guess what, boo-boo? When God looked at you, he didn't see Rachel, he saw a Leah. He saw somebody who was all jacked up. He saw somebody who was all confused and insecure and full of anxiety. And what? God cultivated you. You didn't look this good when God first got his hands on you. God looked at you not for what you brought to the table, but for your potential. And at some point, who are you to not have God's eyes for everybody else in your life? Yes, you should be giving people grace. Yes, you should be investing in the people. Why? Because you know what it looks like to be Leah. You know, it's exactly how it feels to be Leah. When other people threw you away, God began to accept you and say, I'm gonna put my hands on you. You're gonna be my fixer-upper. I know how to what? Change you and mold you into the person that I know you can be. I see your value. All right, here we go. I got 11 minutes. All right, we're gonna do this. That was kind of like an introduction. Here we go. If you're gonna be fruitful this year, fruitful, then it means that you're gonna have to invest in the right places. You're gonna have to have discerning eyes to know what's good ground and what's not. Rachel's not good ground. She's thorny, rocky, shallow ground. Jesus says this, what? The parable of the sower says that the sower is scattering seed, and there at some point the sower realizes where what? The good ground is. If you're gonna be fruitful this year, you gotta know how to recognize good ground, and you've gotta get some what? Seed in your hand. And you're gonna have to sow some seed. So I wanna talk to you about 5 seeds that everybody has. Come on, 5 seeds that everybody has. If you're in this room every single person has one of these 5. You have all 5 of these 5 seeds. Seed everybody has. Number 1, your words. Your words. Every single person has words. Every single person has to what? Be a good steward over the words that you release. If you are constantly complaining, that is the seed that you're releasing into your future. If you're constantly gossiping, that is the seed that you're releasing into your future. I can tell you from experience, me and my wife never said we are an infertile couple. Those words never came out of our mouth. The most I would say is doctors have diagnosed us as infertile. That's as much as I'm giving the enemy, though. I will not put the enemy's declaration into my mouth and then speak it and call it venting. When I was a youth pastor for a decade. I was a youth pastor for 10 years. And, me and Andrew both spent a lot of time in youth ministry. And I would go up to, 2 students. I'd be like, now, y'all dating? Like, is this your boyfriend? Is this your girlfriend? And these students would start saying things like, well, nah, Pastor Manny, we just talking. And I would then look back at them and be like, okay, there's no such thing as just talking. Just is not the word that we put in front of talking, because that minimizes the activity. Let me tell you something. Guess what? Here we go. Eve and the serpent were just talking. Jesus and the disciples were just talking. Talking is the most intimate thing you could ever do with somebody. What do you mean just talking? You mean letting them sow seed into the soil of your heart? You mean you're sowing seed into the soil? Your ears are not ears. They are ground for somebody's seed. And as long as you allow toxic people to talk to you, you are what? Opening up the soil of your life to their words. Pastor Andrew can sow great seed 52 weeks out the year, but if you let your uncle, who thinks tithing is stupid, who's been church hurt, talk you out of exercising faith, then baby, you just let another person sow seed when the dominant seed sower in your life should be your pastor. Who are you letting sow seed into the soil of your heart? The reason that we take ministry so seriously is because this moment is a moment where we are sowing seed. So who's going to be, you have to decide at this point in the year, who's going to be the dominant seed sower in my life? Who's it going to be? Am I going to let my wife be the dominant seed sower in my life, or my administrative assistant? Who always has compliments for me? Who puffs up my ego? Come on. Who's going to be the seed sower in my life? Because, baby, if you're going to guard your purity, if you're going to guard your life, then you have to guard your ears. You have to stop giving your ears to things that are producing anxiety and fear in your life. Number 2. Woo, come on, 7 minutes. Number 2. Second form of seed that everybody has. I think that it's time. There we go. Time. You got 24 hours a day. You got 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to work. You may not have time for Netflix. You may not have time to watch all of Squid Game. Come on. It's crazy to me how many people tell me they don't have time to read their Bible, but they have time to binge every new Korean TV show that's on Netflix. I'm sorry. God wants you to be a good steward over your words and over your time. Your time is a form of seed. And you are either going to what? There's only 3 things you can do with seed. You can save it, you can spend it, you can invest it. Those are the only things you can do. Those are the only things you can do with money. That's the only thing you can do with time. You're either going to waste your time, you're going to invest your time, but boo-boo, you can't save up no time. So you either spending it, you wasting it, or you're what? You're investing it. What have you sown your time into? Because you've been dating that dude for 5 years and he still hasn't proposed, you're probably wasting your time. Okay, dude, come on. Number 3, we moving fast. 5 minutes. Is this helpful? Number 3, your tears. Your tears. I think I've got a passage of scripture for this one. This is Psalm 126, verse 5 and 6. Those who with will reap with songs of joy. Those who go out and weeping, carrying seed to sow, will return with songs of joy, carrying sheaves with them. Can I tell you? Every tear you've cried has been seed into your soil. Come on. Every tear that you've sown, God is not preventing your tears. For some of us, we're so mad that God made us go through pain. But your pain produces tears, and your tear is a seed that you need to sow. God is not preventing pain. Come on. If you're a believer, everything I've cried over is something that, come on, God wants me to reap a harvest back into my life. For so long, I remember the day that I finally broke. I remember the first time I cried over us not being pregnant yet. See, up until that point, like the first 3 years, it was almost like I was pretending like I didn't care. Come on, let's not act like you don't pretend like you don't care. Because caring means that you may cry. And crying means that you have to deal with disappointment. And so instead of dealing with pain or disappointment or any of that, instead, come on, you don't even want to tempt yourself to be angry at God. So what do? You just act like you don't care. I remember for 3 years, just like, I would say passive-aggressive things like, yeah, we're just enjoying, life without kids right now. This freedom, we get to travel, and it's awesome. I was lying to myself, trying to convince myself that I didn't want children. And then, come on, I don't know if I'm the only one. You start to say, well, infertility isn't as bad as like that person dealing with cancer. How dare I be mad about this? No. God is an unlimited resource. It's not like he has to take away healing from somebody else to bless you. He can heal that person of cancer, and he can bless you with what you need. Why are you deflecting and acting as if God is some limited resource? That God can't care about that person and you. No. Your needs are real. They're real. We're not Christian Buddhists. We don't just deny all desires. God gives you the desires of your heart, but if you deny that they're even in your heart, then God can't use your tears as seed. I remember the very first time, I broke, and I began to weep. And I was like, I just want kids. I want to be a father. It was the first time that my wife saw me cry about it. I remember she said, I didn't know you cared this much. You've been married for 5 years, believing God for kids for 3 years, and here we go. My wife didn't even know that I cared because I was too manly and too macho enough to cry about something. Your tears are a form of, come on, seed. Number four, money. Money, the form of seed. It's a form of seed. Okay, here's a passage. I'm just going to skim over both of these because they're really important. This may be one of the most important things I'm going to say today, okay? That God gives bread to the eater and seed to the sower. This is a concept found in 2 places in the Bible. We see it in Corinthians. We also see it in Isaiah, where God delineates the difference between bread to the eater and seed to the sower, okay? Let's deal with bread to the eater first. God wants to give you your daily bread, period. God doesn't, when my son cries because he's hungry, as a father, I want to meet his need. Get the bottle, do something like this kid's crying, I love him. His tears do something to me that they don't do to anybody else. His cry motivates me to meet his need. If you're in the room today and there's something, a real physical need, shelter, clothing, food, God is like, I want to meet that need for you. I want to give bread to the eater. But then there's another group of us who we're not allowing our appetite to make us eat everything. If all you ever do is eat, then all God will ever give you is bread. God doesn't give seed to eaters. He gives bread to those who are hungry. But once you get mature and you realize God's money is not to be used for my light bill. Oh, I need another 8. Come on. I don't consume seed. I'm mature enough to hold seed and sow it. I'm not so hungry that I spent God's money on Starbucks. Come on, millennials. You cannot buy groceries and eat out. You can't buy groceries, then not have a taste for all the groceries you bought, eat out, and then say, I don't have money to tithe. No, it doesn't work that way. What you just did is you just told God, I'm just an eater. God, I just want bread. So I want. Everything you give me, I'm going to see it as bread and I'm going to eat it. Can I tell you something? Seed doesn't grow in stomachs. It only grows in soil. God's seed is not for your stomach. God's seed is not for you to consume. At some point, you have to have enough discernment to know the difference between what's bread and what's seed. What happens with seed? We take seed, we sow it, we get what? Wheat. What do we do with wheat? We harvest it. What do we do with that harvested wheat? We manufacture it. And then what do we get? We get bread. At some point in the middle of the pandemic, I had to realize, okay, I'm scared because of our finances. I travel for a living. All right, Lord, I'm believing that you're going to provide, but I can't be so hungry that I see everything as bread. And I remember we had gotten an honorarium from one church, and I remember the Holy Spirit saying, this is seed. So instead of using it for my light bill or for my groceries or for the car note or for the mortgage, instead of using it for that, I've sowed it and I turned my garage into a studio. That studio became a ministry called Arma. And that ministry began to do courses that people could subscribe to. And right now, we just reached 1,000 subscribers. And that one thing that started in my garage makes over 10 grand a month. And I'm able to employ people and give them bread. Because I took something that was a seed, and instead of eating it, I sowed it. Can I ask you a question? Every time you get paid, can you just start asking God this question? Is this bread or seed? What portion of this is bread? What portion of this is seed? Because if you came to my house and I was eating a mango, I love mangoes. It's very normal to come to my house and see me eating mangoes. And I eat all the fruit, juice flowing all down my, it's not real until juice is flowing. Like you can't eat a mango cute, like it's just messy. Fingers sticky. And then at the end, I've eaten everything. And then you see me go to the cutlery, I grab a fork and a knife, and I start cutting through the seed. And start biting seed and eating seed. You'd be like, whoa, bro. You've passed what? The boundary of hunger. You are now consuming something that's not meant to consume, it's meant to sow. Come on. You need to become a sower. Why? Because God gives seed to sowers. My employees get bread. I'm able to employ people. Payroll ran yesterday because I saw money and I didn't just see it as bread to eat, to provide for me and my family. I saw it as Leah. I saw the potential of what it could be. And I cultivated it, and I sowed it, and I got my hands dirty, and I rolled up my sleeves, and I put in a little what? Blood, sweat, and tears, and I began to cultivate something. The last seed that everybody has, over time, last seed that everybody has is yourself. Until you sow you, it'll never grow. Until you sow you. You. The last seed is you. In the book of John, Jesus says this, if a kernel of wheat stays a single kernel, it'll only ever be what? One seed. But if the seed dies and gets buried, it will become what? Many seeds. The reason there's hundreds of people in this room right now, the reason that there are millions of Christians all around the globe worshiping Jesus is because he didn't value his life so much so that he would not sow his life into the tomb, and that tomb became a womb. And what happened on Easter Sunday when Jesus resurrected from the grave? Many seeds were born into the new creation. You are here because a man named Jesus sowed himself. He didn't just sow teachings. He didn't just sow wise words. He sowed himself. Do you know what your family needs? You. Do you know what your church needs? You. We don't just need your money. We need you. We need your heart and your mind and your ideas and your creativity and you. We need your prayers. We need your worship. We need everything you are for Rose Church to be Rose Church. Rose Church needs you. We need you to sow yourself into the soil of this ministry so that more people can know Jesus. For revival to happen, we need you to wrap yourself up and sow yourself into this house. We need you. The interesting thing is God works in threes. Always works in threes. He's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And I had to get this because my family was so dysfunctional that typically the first generation has to be a seed. The second generation gets to be the tree. And the third generation gets to be fruit. Right now, I just decided nobody in my family's ever graduated from high school, then guess what? I'm gonna get my college degree, my master's degree, my doctorate. Why? Because my life doesn't matter. I'm just a seed. My son will be the tree and my grandson will be fruit. I'm not living for me. I'm living for 2 generations removed from me. You've gotta sow you. You. When you come to God and say, God, I want you to bless me, God first says, then can you die to you? Can you die to self? Can you get rid of your selfishness? Remember complaining to God, why aren't we pregnant yet? Why aren't we pregnant yet? And I remember God looking back at me and saying, I want you to have kids more than you want kids. Because you know what your kid is gonna do? It's gonna kill you. Your selfishness. And all your self-ambition is gonna kill you, and you're gonna finally start living for somebody else. Can I ask you a question? Did you come to church today so that you could get a word or so that somebody else could? You come to church for you today or for somebody else? Because guess what? There's a bunch of volunteers that showed up early today so that you can hear from God because they care more about you than themselves. You don't get an awesome church until you sow yourself. You won't have a successful business until you sow yourself. You're not gonna have a great marriage until you sow yourself. If you're in this room today, maybe you don't know Jesus. Can I give you the good news of the gospel? He sowed himself into a tomb so that tomb could become a womb, so that he could live the life that you could never live, so that he died the death that you would never have to die. He loves you and he cares more about you than his own life. He sacrificed his life so that you could have a relationship with God. If you're in this room today or watching online and you don't know Jesus, I want to invite you to accept Jesus into your heart as your personal Lord and Savior. If you're in this room, and maybe you've been a consumer, you want to become a contributor, I want you to take the next step. I want you to sow your words. I want you to sow your time. I want you to sow your tears. I want you to sow your money, but I really want you to sow you. Come on, if you're in this room and you're responding to any of those invitations, either salvation or just a deeper commitment to this church and to Jesus, you just lift your hands right where you are. God, I thank you for my brothers and sisters at Rose Church. God, we thank you that right now we are gonna sow. This is gonna be the most fruitful year of our life. God, we prophesy right now fruit in every area of our life. God, give us the grace to get over our infatuation with Rachel and to begin to love things that don't look like they have potential. God, we ask that you would call forth Lazarus this year, that even if it looks dead, that you would bring back life to our dreams and our businesses and our relationships. God, do what only you could do. If you're in this place, come on, all around the room, as we begin to go back into worship, just go lift up your hands. God, we magnify you and we worship you. There's nobody like you, Jesus.